are the top stories on the hour. 1 killed, 4 wounded after drone strikes in Kyiv for the third day. North Korea's leader vows to boost nuclear capability after missile launch. Delhi in search of potable water. Welcome to the World News on VOP TV. I am Kayla Abraham. Now, regional officials and the military stated that Russia launched a third consecutive day of drone and missile strikes in Kyiv and other Ukrainian regions, killing at least 1 person, wounding several others, and causing material damage despite air defenses succeeding in destroying almost all incoming projectiles. Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko stated that 1 man was killed and 4 others were wounded in the strikes on the Ukrainian capital overnight. Klitschko stated on Telegram that the body of the dead person was discovered by firefighters in Kyiv's Podil district, adding that 2 of the wounded were hospitalized and buildings were also damaged. Serhiy Popko, the head of Kyiv's military administration, disclosed that about a dozen Iranian-made drones were shot down above the capital overnight. Ukraine's Interior Ministry stated that debris from the destroyed drones fell on 4 districts of Kyiv. Separately, the Ukrainian Air Defense stated that it shot down all 20 drones that targeted Kyiv and other parts of Ukraine. It also destroyed 2 Caliber cruise missiles fired from the Black Sea and 1 Iskander cruise missile launched from Russian-occupied Crimea. It was the third successive night of Russian strikes in Ukraine, which started just hours before a 2-day NATO summit, crucial for Kyiv, opened in Vilnius, Lithuania, some 260 kilometers from Russia and 30 kilometers from Moscow ally Belarus. Meanwhile, the Russian military announced on Wednesday that it has received military hardware from the Wagner mercenary group following its short-lived mutiny last month that challenged the Kremlin's authority. The major haul includes tanks, 2,500 tons of ammunition, and around 20,000 small arms. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman disclosed in a statement that more than 2,000 pieces of equipment and weapons have been transferred. The ministry added that mobile rocket launchers and anti-aircraft systems had been transferred. The disarming of Wagner reflects efforts by Russian authorities to defuse the threats posed by the group, appearing to confirm an end to its military operation in Ukraine. The transfer of weapons comes amid speculation over the fate of Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin and the terms of a deal that ended in his armed rebellion. He and his mercenaries were reportedly offered amnesty along with permission to move to Belarus, but there has since been doubt whether he is actually in Russia's western neighbor. North Korea's state-run media stated on Thursday that the North test-fired a Hwasong-18 ICBM the previous day in the presence of leader Kim Jong-un. According to media reports, the missile flew 1,001 kilometers for 74 minutes and 51 seconds up to a maximum altitude of 6,648.4 kilometers before hitting a preset area in the open waters of the East Sea. The missile's flight time broke the previous record of 71 minutes posted during a missile launch on March 24 of last year. The altitude of over 6,000 kilometers has led to calculations that the Hwasong-18 has a maximum range of more than 15,000 kilometers if launched at a standard angle capable of hitting any part of the U.S. mainland. On Wednesday marked the second time Pyongyang has fired a Hwasong-18 ICBM since April. The North Korean media stated that Kim inspected the launch on site together with First Lady Ri Sol-chu. As he oversaw the launch, the reclusive leader vowed to continuously engage in a strong military offensive until what he termed the U.S. imperialist and South Korean perpetrators admit defeat and abandon their hostile policies towards the North. The media also stated that the latest launch was aimed at protecting the nation's safety and peace in the region from the calamities of a nuclear war. The report added that the launch was part of efforts to strengthen the North's rights to self-defense in the bid to thoroughly repress the dangerous military activities of enemy forces. Besides longer-term security commitments, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday won fresh pledges of weapons and ammunition from the West to fight Russia's invasion at the much-awaited NATO summit. A joint declaration issued by the G7 promised agreements to help Ukraine bolster its military over the long term. Zelensky described the initiative as a breach towards eventual NATO membership and a deterrent against Russia. However, he also expressed disappointment over the lack of a clear path for Ukraine to join NATO. He stated this while flanked by US President Joe Biden and other leaders from the group of 7 most powerful democratic nations that the Ukrainian delegation is bringing home a significant security victory for Ukraine, for the country, for the people, and for the children. Zelensky also thanked President Biden and stated that shipments of controversial cluster munitions would help Ukraine's fight against Russia. Biden and Zelensky also met privately along with the advisors. Biden later added President Zelensky now understands that whether his country is formally in NATO is not relevant as long as he has commitments such as security guarantees. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stated that the NATO summit in Vilnius boosted harmony in the alliance on Wednesday. Scholz added in a press meeting that the two-day summit, which concluded in Lithuania's capital, also showed that the alliance is ready to defend its members. He stated that it was the first summit in which Finland participated as a NATO ally, adding that Sweden will also become a member of the alliance soon. Scholz stated that he is convinced that the membership of Finland and Sweden will also consolidate the alliance. He also underscored that his country will provide more contributions to strengthen the alliance's eastern flank from 2025 on. In reference to Ukraine, he reiterated that Germany will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it is needed. However, Scholz stated that there are criteria a country has to fulfill to become a NATO member and remarked that Ukraine is not exempted from them. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi as officials gather in Indonesia for ASEAN meetings. Thursday's meeting will conduct as Wang is representing China at the Jakarta meetings involving the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and partner countries after Beijing stated that Foreign Minister Qin Chang would not attend due to health reasons. Blinken met King and Wang in Beijing last month, marking the first visit to China by a U.S. Secretary of State in 5 years. It was aimed at easing the intense rivalry between the superpowers, which are also the world's 2 largest economies. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen visited China earlier this month, and climate envoy John Kerry is to visit next week. Now, Thailand's parliament convened on Thursday to elect the Southeast Asian nation's 30th Prime Minister. Peter Limjaroenrat, leader of the Move Forward Party, is the frontrunner for the country's chief executive post. According to the reporters, he is the sole contender for the post after he was nominated by Pheu Thai party leader Chonan Sririkul during a joint sitting of the bicameral parliament. Some 302 lawmakers backed the nominations. Authorities have taken security measures around the parliament amid fears of protest. The MFP swept to a surprise first-place finish in the general elections held in May, capturing 151 seats in the 500-member National Assembly. It is leading an 8-party and 312-seat coalition to take over the government. Now, U.S. President Joe Biden arrived in Finland on Wednesday following a NATO summit in Vilnius, Lithuania. He is set to meet Finnish President Sauli Niinisto alongside other Nordic leaders. This includes Sweden's Ulf Kristersson, Norway's Jonas Gahr Store, Denmark's Mette Frederiksen, and Iceland's Katrín Jakobsdóttir. Finland, which shares a border with Russia of over 1,300 kilometers, ended its historic military non-alignment to enter NATO as a response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Biden will be the first U.S. president to visit Helsinki since Donald Trump's summit 5 years ago with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Talks will focus on cooperation between the Nordic countries and the United States on security, environmental, and technology issues. Finland will be Biden's final stop on his European tour before returning to Washington on Thursday. In Vilnius, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan suddenly reversed his stance on Sweden's NATO membership after blocking the bid for more than a year and accusing Stockholm of harboring Kurdish activist Ankara regards as terrorist. Now in India, the city government stated that supplies of potable water in the Indian capital will fall by a quarter on Thursday and Friday because 3 treatment plants have been flooded as the Yamuna River overflowed after incessant rain. Delhi's river is at its highest level in 45 years after unusually heavy downpours in neighboring states like Haryana to the north. The city of 20 million people also saw heavy rain over the weekend, with flooding in low-lying communities that forced hundreds of people to seek shelter in relief camps. The city's chief, Arvind Kejriwal, stated on Twitter that there will be water problems in some areas of Delhi. Kejriwal stated that the water level in the river could peak later on Thursday, and in the meantime, people were being evacuated from flooded areas. And finally, at least 87 people, including ethnic Masalists, were buried in a mass grave in Sudan's West Darfur. The UN Human Rights Office stated on Thursday, saying it had credible information that the Rapid Support Forces were responsible. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk disclosed this in a statement that he condemns in the strongest terms the killing of civilians and horrors that combat individuals, and is appalled by the callous and disrespectful way the dead, along with their families and communities, were treated. He called for a prompt and thorough investigation. And that is a wrap on the world news on VOP TV. I am Kayla Abraham. VOP Business Show coming up next.